Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So, welcome everyone. We'll be beginning new chapter today. So far, we have discussed the different categories of sadhana bhakti, Vaidhi sadhana and Raganuga sadhana. So, in the previous discussions, we discussed 64 limbs of Vaidhi sadhana bhakti, and today we'll be discussing the topic of Raganuga bhakti. Before we start that, let us have a quick recap of what we discussed yesterday. So, any points that you remember from our yesterday's class? Anything that you would like to reflect upon? What are some of the points that were discussed yesterday? Please share some of the reflections. Yes, Madhuri, please speak.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, you mentioned in the beginning that 64 limbs, these are the ways by which we can love Krishna, basically. And then we were discussing in detail about various points. So, in deity worship, you gave an example of His Holiness Bhakti Madhurya Goswami Maharaj, that he said that I have a very living relationship with the deity. So, that's how deity worship is very important. Like, other and then we also discussed that Varnashram is not a part of bhakti because Srila Rupa Goswami has not given that in the 64 limbs of bhakti.
Okay, thank you. What else was discussed? Other points, please. Aradhya Gar Prabhu, Vivek Prabhu, Priya Mataji, Jait Ved Prabhu. Jeev Jago, Jeev Jago. We won't move until you share something or at least switch on the camera. We know you are there. Any signs of life? Hari Bol, Hare Krishna. All the Bhakta Ganas. Mandleshwar Prabhu, Rishabh Mitra Prabhu. John Prabhu, we did not have your darshan from last 1 week. Please be merciful upon us. Priya Mataji, anything? Any points from yesterday's discussion? You can take a look at your notes in your book. You can visit that. For 5 minutes, let us please revisit what we discussed yesterday. Share it.
I have just joined, Prabhuji. You have described the 5 potent forms of devotional service, and these 5 are the most potent, as it can elevate the heart of a neophyte devotee. So these are mentioned as the most potential forms of devotional service.
Okay. So what are these 5 points?
Worshipping the Lord in deity form, residing in Mathura or Vrindavan, serving the devotees, chanting the holy names, and hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam.
Okay, thank you very much. So they are said to be the very potent because even a slight contact with them can manifest full bhav in the heart of even a neophyte. Okay, other points?
We discussed Hare Krishna Prabhu. Please accept my humble obeisances. Sorry, Prabhu. Yeah, it's my voice is a bit husky because it's morning here. Just woke up. We discussed mainly about why Mathura, not mainly, as in within those 5 points you asked the question. An example of why Mathura, living in Mathura Vrindavan is so potent, and some example, and I think example was like manifestation of full power. I think I remember the one that I read, which was Bilva Mangal Thakur forgot about his girlfriend and just left for Mathura. And yeah, just by hearing about Krishna in Mathura.
Okay, thank you. Other points? Vinita Pradhan Mataji, anything? Jonika Mataji. Would you be willing to share something from our discussion yesterday? And at any point that you remember, or you can break.
Hare Krishna, Guruji.
Yes, Prabhu.
One point I remember is regarding the deity of Krishna, where Rupa Goswami cites a very beautiful verse. Don't know the Sanskrit book, but it says that if someone is wants to enjoy the company of friends in the material world, he should not go to the bank of Yamuna where a boy with a bluish boy is standing playing on his flute. Because if one sees his form, he will be this form is so enchanting that one will uh, forget his real life.
Yeah. So one gopi is saying to another gopi, Smeram Bhangi Traya Parichitam. This boy is smiling in such captivating ways. And his form is like threefold bending form. And Sachi Vistirna Drishtim. And how is his glance? His glance is sidelong glance. And his glance is moving hither and thither. And his entire body is shining in the effulgent moonlight in a night of full moon day. And he's standing on the bank of Keshi Ghat, on the bank of Yamuna River at Keshi Ghat. And he's glorifying that his form is so enchanting that and captivating that you will forget all kinds of attractions for this material world. So, my dear friend, if you have any desire to enjoy material friends and relative and material enjoyment, you better don't go to Keshi Ghat. So they're glorifying Krishna in that beautiful way. Once Srila Prabhupada asked Yamuna Mataji to write this verse on a picture and hang that picture in the on the wall of temple room. Okay. Okay. Yes. Vrindavan Vasi Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, please accept my humble wishes and all my wishes to all the Vaishnavas. Prabhuji, as you pointed out, what is the relation between Varnashram and Sadhana Bhakti? Then you pointed out that we have like 64 limbs are there, but is there anywhere mentioned anything about any varnas or ashram? No. So basically, varna ashram is it. The bhakti is not dependent on varna ashram. It is external. Though varna ashram help us to get ourselves regulated, it purifies our desire. But bhakti is not dependent on that. So that is one you said. And then you said how again the Gyan and Viragya is related to sadhana bhakti. Then you again said that knowledge which leads to which we are thinking that which leads to impersonal kind of conclusions, or Viragya which makes our heart and emotionless. So these type things are not favorable to bhakti. But when we do bhakti, then automatically the devotional knowledge we get, the viragya we get from sense gratification attachment to Krishna, that is favorable. And that you help us to understand. Then the Yukt Viragya principle came up. And then you said Yukt Viragya, the thing is that you have to be attached to Krishna, detached from sense gratification, see everything in relation to Krishna, and use it for his service. But in case you should know your boundaries, you should know adhikars. So maybe if you're not qualified and if you like to step into that principle, so it may not be advisable. Therefore, you should consult. And then those things which can be used for Krishna, we are not using it in the name of Vairagya. So some things I try to learn from those things. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Vrindan. Tanika Mataji. We are unable to hear you, Mataji.
Can you hear me now, Prabhuji?
Yes.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dhanvat Pranam. Prabhuji, yesterday you discussed about deity worship at home, how important it is to worship deities. If you have deities at home, if you will not worship them properly, then Vigraha will turn into Kalagraha. So I remember this from the yesterday class. So thank you, Prabhuji.
So 2 points in this. I said if you don't do Shravan and Kirtan, the worship of deities become very mechanical and burdensome. So that's one. And second, worshipping the deities is important, whether at home or at the temple. If you have living nearby temple, can come early to the temple. That's the best. If you are not that, then we can have deities at home also. Important thing is to worship deities. Okay. Yes. Thank you. Yes, Kanchan Mataji.
Prabhuji, I had one point and one question regarding yesterday's discussion. One point is that these devotional practices are not overestimations. There are examples in the Shastras like that of the Chatush Kumaras who just smelled the tulasi leaves offered at the lotus feet of Lord and their heart got transformed, and that of Bilvamangal Thakur who just heard and left everything and went out. So these devotional practices are not overestimation. I had one question also. So, just like in chanting, we hear that it is better to chant with offenses than not chanting. Like if a person says, "Okay, I'm committing offenses, so let me not chant," so he'll say, "Okay, it's better you chant with offenses than not chanting." So, is it the same with deity worship and deity worship and everything? Like, okay, it is better to serve with offenses initially than not serve.
So, just like in chanting, there are 3 stages. So we begin with the Namaprad stage, and then we eventually we need to strive to come to the Namaprad stage, Namabhas, and then Shuddhana. See, the important thing is our intent and our purpose. That needs to be progressive. Okay. For example, if we are so much afraid of committing aparadh to the deities, we need to ask ourselves why we are so afraid. if the list of offenses is discouraging us to even worship the deities, was that the purpose? No, the purpose was to make us aware, number one, to make us cautious, number two, and we can always take suitable training and start with the service. It is with like any other relationship. We want that relationship to be progressive, to be dynamic, to be living. And if we want that kind of relationship with Krishna, here are some of the do's, here are some of the don'ts. So, I would say it is not, rather the question should be, how do we convert offenses to the positive side of it in a very respectful, pleasing service to Krishna? I mean, why we are even asking that question if it's an offensive stage, and will it be benefit or not? The consciousness, the direction in which we need to move, whether it's a nam or the puja, serving the Vaishnavas or the archan, the direction in which I'm looking forward to, the stage that I'm aspiring to go, that needs to be a pure stage. So currently, my current status may not matter that much, as much the direction in which I'm going. So right now, I may not know anything. And right now, I may not, I may be committing a lot of offensive, lot of mistakes and this and that. That is not that important. Important is in which direction do I want to go? What path do I want to pursue in my life? Are you getting? So one mindset is, okay, I'm committing offenses and I want to just stay there. And I'm complacent and happy within that stage. The other stage is, okay, I'm committing offenses, but this is not the place where I want to stay always. I want to move ahead in my, from that stage. So the question needs to be how to make our service from displeasing or offensive stage to pleasing service. That direction, that intent is the answer to your question. If that intent is there, everything will work out. Right? Or if someone is committing offenses in japa, it's not a very good stage to be in. The namaprad stage is not it's a lowest level. I mean, someone gave you Mercedes, and let us say you want trying to plow the field through using Mercedes. Doesn't work out. You just go to the highway, run at 200, 300. You can have full utility of that. Somebody gave the trees of Chandan to you, and we are burning those trees to get haath sekne ke liye, to warm our hands on in the winter, something like that. So we have received such a precious gift of holy name and the deities. Why not utilize it to the fullest extension? So rather than thinking of offensive stage, our consciousness needs to be fully occupied with, what does it sound like to chant in pure holy name stage? Kabe habe bolo sayyide namar. What would it like to be, worship Radha Krishna with full purity of heart in a way that is most pleasing to them? So that needs to be the aspiration. So in short, the answer to your question is yes and no, depending upon the aspiration of the individual. If the aspiration is to just stay in the offensive stage, then no. If the aspiration is to, be progressive and how to make it service more pleasing, and we wish to continually grow, then yes, we need to worship the deities. Okay. And you have a point, Vrindavan Vasibro? Your hand is.
Probably one point really was very helpful and very enlightening, that sometimes we, as you said, consider advancement to be external when we see from the external points that how many followers he has, maybe YouTube or persons are coming to his program. But rather than it has to be internal. When we see that how attached we are getting to Lord Krishna, or how the intent is getting purified to serve Krishna and his devotees. So that point was very, very striking, that it has to be more, our service has to be more internal oriented, or we have to focus on internal development. The very, very important point. I mean, we lose our focus. So I think that was very, very important point, I felt.
I think both are important. The context is very important. So yes, externals are also important, and they also indicate something. But the main criterion is attachment to Krishna. How much one's mind is fixed to Krishna. If externally speaking, if we would see Srila Prabhupada in 1965 on a Jaladut, what would we see? An old man with practically no follower going into a foreign place, in a place where anyone above 40 would be considered senile, ki satya gaya. And then someone at the age of 70 is going with zero money and with zero disciples. So would we appreciate and respect and honor Srila Prabhupada equally, or is it only when he was successful in terms of preaching the message, had 108 temples and followers and so on? So let us remove all the followers. Would we? So His Holiness Satsvarup Das Maharaj writes in Prabhupada Lilamrit, that incident when David physically hit Prabhupada and Prabhupada left his only place in the middle of night. Remember that incident? He was living with and Prabhupada was making his plan that he will be the first person to whom I'll take to Vrindavan, show him Vrindavan. And then suddenly he was on LSD and he physically hit Swamiji. And Prabhupada had to leave. He was on the road on the middle of night. His luggage was back. It was too dangerous to return. And now in the midnight in a foreign land, an old man is standing in the middle of night. So Satsvarup Das Maharaj is writing, even at that point, because he was always remembering Krishna and thinking of Krishna and doing everything for Krishna. So he was successful then. He was successful back in India. Externally speaking, not even one person became his disciple, except there was only one, and that also no one else during his entire years of endeavors of preaching. But he was still successful. So he was still devotee of Krishna. He was still a Nitya Siddha. So externals are also important. There's a certain context to it. But externals also, we should know what kind of parameters to look even externally. How does one look? If someone just judging, this person is from America, and this person is from India, or this person is from Bangladesh, or this person is from Bihar or South India. When we think in this external terms, then it is said to be a Narakiya Buddhi, a hellish mentality. So there are some external symptoms also are there, and we will study at the level of Bhava Bhakti. Or if the Guru Ashtakam that we chant every day, there are some external and some internal. Both are described in this. Romancha Kampa, Shutaranga Bhajo, Shri Vigrahara, Yuktasya Bhaktasya, Chaturvidha, Shri Bhajanta. These are external parameters. But then Shri Radhika Madhava or the next stanzas, they are internal, quantitative, qualitative, both are there. Main thing is how much one loves Krishna. How that love is manifested in the following of principles of sadhana bhakti by one's qualities, Vaishnava qualities they manifest in their life, and how much they are applying in their own life. The concept is of, acharya, one who teaches by example. So, yeah. So let us move forward.
One more inspiration I had, especially for me, that if we attend the morning program, we are covering major amount of all the 64 limbs. So that was a very great impetus for me that have to be try and regular more, or at least make some effort that to be so much one day in a week or 2 days to be in the morning program. Thank you.
So even if we just fix one thing in our day, rest everything can revolve around it. If just one thing we can fix, let us say if we fix that, okay, no matter what, I'll attend Mangal Aarti. Even if we just do that, I don't know about any other thing, but if we just take one thing and we fix it, or I'll chant my rounds in the morning, 5 to 7, or I'll hear class every day, or I'll go to bed by 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock. I mean, anything we fix, the sleeping time, waking up time, or even if we fix just one thing in our day, just one, even that, everything then starts moving around that thing. So yes, yesterday we were discussing, after Srila Rupa Goswami gave the list of 64 items of sadhana bhakti, Vaidhi sadhana bhakti, then Srila Goswami describes the relation of various practices with the limbs of sadhana bhakti. So first of all, he describes varnashram, since varnashram does not find a place in 64 limbs of devotional service. Then Rupa Goswami describes how simply by following varna and ashram duties, one cannot awaken one's service, one attraction to Krishna. Yet they can be a very wonderful platform upon which accepting the principles of Vaidhi sadhana bhakti would be very easier. But varnashram duties in themselves are not a part of Vaidhi sadhana bhakti. So then Srila Rupa Goswami discusses the subject of Jnana and Vairagya. So we discuss how the process of Jnana and Vairagya, they are not the limbs of devotional service. There are some pitfalls in it. And yet, how the qualities of Jnana and Vairagya are very much recommended for sadhana bhakti. In that, we discussed about the Yukt Vairagya principle also. How to practice Vairagya without hardening the heart. And then active detachment or Yukt Vairagya is this one. Yukt Vairagya and Falgu Vairagya. The next, Srila Rupa Goswami discusses about wealth and followers. performing devotional service through one's wealth or followers is not an item of sadhana. After that, Srila Rupa Goswami describes the principle of yam. Yam means to control, just like ahimsa, brahmacharya, or some call it like satyam. So these restraints are not the items of sadhana bhakti because they in themselves do not impel devotion in the heart. So the only thing that impels devotion is the limbs, are the practices of bhakti. However, a devotee will manifest all these qualities. A vegetarian need not necessarily be a devotee. Simply one says, okay, I became vegetarian. Will that awaken any attraction to Krishna? No. But if someone is a devotee, they will be vegetarian automatically. And then in the conclusion of the chapter, Srila Goswami describes how these 64 are an expansion of 9 limbs of devotional service: Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam, Archana, Manam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atmanivedanam. And devotional service can be practiced by concentrating on any one item of this Navda Bhakti or by concentrating equally in all the items. So this was our discussion on chapter 14. Now we are taking up chapter 15. You have a question, Vrindavan Vasif Prabhu, or a point? Okay. So let us read about Raga Nuga Bhakti. So before reading, just a context to it. What is Raga Nuga Bhakti? So see, we discussed that we are in the Purvi Vibhag of Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu, and this Vibhag has 4 lahars. So first lahar discussed about Samanya Bhakti, in which the definition of Uttama Bhakti was established. Then the second lahar is about the second wave about Sadhana Bhakti, right? And under that we discussed the Sadhana Bhakti, the definition of Sadhana Bhakti, and there are 2 stages, 2 different types of Sadhana Bhakti is there. One is Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti, and the next is Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti. So, chapter 2 to 14 describes Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. Now 15 and 16, we are still in the second wave. So we are now reading the next part of Sadhana Bhakti, that is Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti. In order to understand Raganuga, we need to understand the concept of Ragatmika. So there are 2 terms. In the initial Nectar of Devotion book, these 2 terms by mistake, I think, were interchanged, and then in later editions they were corrected. So I don't know which edition you are using. Important is to understand these principles rightly. So there are 2 terminologies. One is called as Ragatmika Bhakti. After understanding what is Ragatmika Bhakti, we can understand what is Raganuga Bhakti. So Raganuga Bhakti is a devotional practice that strives to cultivate the mood of Krishna's associate in Vrindavan. A devotional practice that strives to cultivate the mood of Krishna's associates in Vrindavan. So therefore, before describing what is Raganuga, we need to understand about the bhakti of residents of Vrindavan. What kind of devotional attachment and mood are found in Vrindavan's eternal residents? So these definitions are also given in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Let us study those verses. So Madhya Lila, 22nd chapter, 154th verse. So this defines what is Raganuga Bhakti. Virajante abhivyaktam vrajvasi janadishu ragatmikam anusrita yasaraganu uchyate yasaraganugochyate. That service is called Raganuga Bhakti. Which service? Virajantim abhivyaktam. Abhivyaktam means to fully express. And virajante means which is shining intensely. So Vrajvasi Jana Adishu. Vrajvasi means who are the residents of Vraj, Jan, and Adishu. Ragatmikam Anusrita. So that, the eternal residents of Golok Vrindavan Dham, the kind of mood, the spontaneous loving attachment and service to Krishna that they manifest, that is called as Ragatmika. A devotional service in which we want to cultivate that kind of mood and that kind of relationship, that is called as Raganuga Bhakti. So devotional service in spontaneous love is vividly expressed and manifest by the inhabitants of Vrindavan. Devotional service that accords with their devotional service is called Raganuga Bhakti, or devotional service following in the wake of spontaneous loving service. So if we go little up, this is 150. So this is 22nd chapter Madhya Lila, 150th verse. When one becomes attached to the Supreme Personality of Godhead according to one's natural inclination to love Him and is fully absorbed in the thoughts of the Lord, that state is called transcendental attachment, and devotional service according to that attachment is called Ragatmika, or spontaneous devotional service. Then 152. So you can note down these verses. Madhya Lila, 22nd chapter, verse 150, 152, and 154. Thus, devotional service which consists of rag is called Ragatmika. If a devotee covered such a position is considered to be the most fortunate. So what is Ragatmika Bhakti? What is the meaning of Ragatmika? So Rag Atmika, Atma means essence. So Rag means one whose very essence is intense attachment for Krishna. So Rag means intense attachment for Krishna. Atma means the essence. So one whose very essence is a deep attachment to Krishna, that is Ragatmika. So Rag, another meaning of Rag is also color. So if someone wears a green colored goggle, everything will appear to green. If they wear red color, everything will appear to be red, right? So similarly, if someone has extreme attachment to Krishna, so that person will see Krishna everywhere. That will be the object of our obsession all the time. Okay. So this kind of attachment and this kind of mood are found in eternal, perfected uh, uh, residents of Vrindavan towards Krishna. That means the passion to serve Krishna consumes a devotee's consciousness to such an extent that he or she cannot think of anything else under that circumstances. That is Ragatmika. So therefore, Ragatmika Bhakti is spontaneous attraction for something while completely absorbed in thoughts of it with an intense desire of love. That is Ragatmika Bhakti. Okay, can someone please read the first paragraph? The first two paragraphs.
Examples of spontaneous devotional service can be easily seen in Krishna's direct associates in Vrindavan. The spontaneous dealings of the residents of Vrindavan in relationship with Krishna are called Ragatmika. These beings don't have to learn anything about devotional service. They are already perfect in all regulative principles and have achieved the spontaneous loving service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. For example, the cowherd boys who are playing with Krishna do not have to learn by austerities or penances or yogic practice how to play with him. They have passed all tests of regulative principles in their previous lives, and as a result, they are now elevated to the position of direct association with Krishna as his dear friends. This spontaneous attitude is called Ragatmika Bhakti. Sri Rupa Goswami has defined Ragatmika Bhakti as spontaneous attraction for something which completely absorbed in thought, while completely absorbed in thoughts of it, with an intense desire of love. Devotional service executed with such feelings of spontaneous love is called Ragatmika Bhakti. Devotional service under the heading of Ragatmika can be further divided into two categories. One category is called sensual attraction, and the other one is called relationship.
Okay, so then what is Ragatmika Bhakti? The spontaneous dealings of the residents of Vrindavan in relationship with Krishna are called Ragatmika Bhakti. Okay. So Ragatmika is specifically found in Golok Vrindavan and not at other places. Why? Usually not at other places or in lesser degree, so as to say. Now the question is why? This spontaneous attraction towards Krishna specifically found in Brajvasis. So why? One of the reason is because, you remember we discussed the difference between Vaidhi and Raganuga. In Vaidhi, usually the source of inspiration is external, Guru Sadhu Shastra. In Raganuga, it is the spontaneous attraction, internal. Now, Raganuga is usually more than just spontaneity. It is a service that is motivated exclusively by love. And it has no other consideration in it. If there is sense of awe and reverence or greatness towards the Supreme Lord, somewhat that love will be limited by a sense of etiquettes. So someone may spontaneously like to serve Krishna, but if the consciousness is preoccupied with the awareness of majestic or greatness, there is some sense of awe and reverence that Krishna is God. That then it will be on the level of Vaidhi Bhakti only, because the love will always be restrained by the formal etiquette which is necessary in dealing with Almighty. But the Raganuga must be free, completely free from any such restraint. Just like we see in the example of like Mother Yashoda, the love that she has for Krishna. It is completely free from the conception of that Krishna is God. She loves Krishna as her own child. So in various different kinds of prasas, there are various eternal residents of Vrindavan. So those are called as Ragatmika Bhakta. And therefore we'll find that this bhav is present less in, let us say, Dwarka. It may be there, people, devotees there are spontaneously attracted to Krishna to serve him. Yet, because they are aware of his greatness, that how great Krishna is, their love is always checked by a sense of external formal etiquette. But when the love extends to such a depth, the intimacy is so great that one sees Krishna as one's friend, as one's lover, as one's son, and is free from any such awe and reference or formal etiquette. That is Ragatmika Bhakti. Any questions so far about what is Ragatmika? So, this Ragatmika Bhakti is of two types. The one is called as Kama Rupa and the other is called Sambandha Rupa. Kama Rupa is sensual attraction. Sambandha Rupa is relationship. So, Kama Rupa specifically refers to the devotees who are in Madhurya Ras with the Lord. And all the other categories are included in Sambandha Rupa. So, Kam means conjugal love. Although conjugal love is also a type of relationship, yet Srila Rupa Goswami marks it as a separate category to emphasize its preeminence. Okay. That is why we just read that devotional service under the heading of Ragatmika can be given. One is called sensual attraction, Kama Rupa, and Sambandha Rupa relationship. Next, Srila Rupa Goswami gives the proof from Srimad Bhagavatam. 7th canto, 1st chapter, verse 37, 130. Anyone remembers which is that verse? Opya Kamad Bhayat Kanso Dvesha Chedyadyo Nirpaha Sambandha Drishnaya Sneha Yuyam Bhaktya Vayam Vipo. This is 730 and 731. These two verses are there. Let's see. कामाद्वेषात् भयात् स्नेहात् यथा भक्त्येश्वरे मनः आवेश्य तदगं हित्वा बहवस्तद्गतिं गता. So how many emotions are there? How many intentions are there? So first is kama, from lust. Then second is dvesha. Third is bhayat, that means fear. And fourth is affection. So either out of lust, or out of envy, or out of fear, or out of affection. Yatha bhaktyeshware mana. A devotee can utilize any of these things. For what? Aveshya tad agam hitva bhavastad gatim gata. Mana avesh. To absorb one's mind into the Supreme Lord. Many persons, many persons tad gatim gata have attained perfection by engaging their mind into the lotus feet of Krishna with the motivation of Kam, Dvesh, Bhai or Sneh. Many persons have attained liberation simply by thinking of Krishna with great attention and giving up sinful activities, agham. This great attention may be due to lusty desires, inimical feeling, fear, affection, or devotional service. Yatha bhaktiyeshwarevana. So fifth is bhaktya, by devotion. I shall now explain how one receives Krishna's mercy simply by concentrating one's mind upon him. Narad Muni is saying that verse. And in the next verse, Narad Muni gives the example. What is that example? Gopyaha kamad. So first was kamad. So who is the person? Who are the devotees who absorb their mind? Gopyaha. What about bhai? Who absorbed one's mind in bhai? Kanso. Then for dvesha, out of envy, Chaidya Nripaha. Chaidya is named Shishupal and other kings Nripaha. They are out of envy. And what was the fourth one? Sneha, affection. So Sambandhat Vrishneha Sneha. So Vrishni, out of their relationship, affection, they were affectionate. And then Yuyam Bhaktya, fifth was devotion. Yuyam Bhaktya. So Yuyam means all of you. Narad Muni is saying to Yudhishthira Maharaj, all of you means all of your five brothers. Yuyam. And then Vayam, we also. So Sneha is Sambandhat Vrishna, Yuyam Bhakti, and Vayam Vibho. Through devotional service, we did. And you and Vrishni Vanshis out of affection. So, my dear King Yudhishthira, the gopis by their lusty desire, Kansa by his fear, Shishupal and other kings by envy, the Yadus by their family relationship with Krishna, you Pandavas by your great affection for Krishna, and we, the general devotees, by our devotional service, have obtained the mercy of Krishna. So, out of these examples, which are the examples of bhakti and which are not? Can you tell? So let's, yes, Vrindavan.
Prabhuji, here, as you explained that principle of Anaprakshita Shunyam, so we can see here like gopis and Vrishnis and Yadavas and Naradji, they are examples of devotional service because their intent was to please Krishna. And Shishupal and Kansa, they were thinking about the Lord, but it was not favorable thinking. They wanted, they didn't had the intent to please Krishna. So therefore, we may say, as per that definition, that it's like they were not practicing devotional service.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. So, Srila Rupa Goswami, through these verses, is giving the evidence of two types of Ragatmika Bhaktis. One is Kama Rupa, and then second is Sambandha Rupa. So, in Kama Rupa is the example of gopis. In Sambandha Rupa is the example of Vrishni and all the Pandavas. So, Kansa Bhayat. So that intention was unfavorable. So therefore, that is not a recommended process of bhakti. Yet, because they absorbed their mind into Krishna, Srila Rupa Goswami writes, or the Bhagavatam says they got the same result. We'll discuss on that also. So Dvesha Chedya. So out of Dvesha, out of envy, Shishupal and other kings. So although they had their mind fully absorbed in Krishna, but because their intention was not favorable, and that is not a bhakti. So fear and envy are not the genuine form of spontaneous devotion. Then what about Narad Muni? So that is devotional service in Narad. So Jiva Goswami explains, because here the word has come bhaktiya, it indicates that Narad's devotional service arises from a sense of duty. So therefore, this is Vaidhi Bhakti, out of a sense of duty. And it is not counted as a Ragatmika Bhakti, a genuine forms of Ragatmika Bhakti. So one by one, Srila Rupa Goswami has discussed these emotions and their examples, whether they're part of Ragatmika or the examples of Vaidhi Bhakti. So fear and envy, it is not Bhakti itself. So that's not counted. Devotional service out of Bhaktiya and Narad Muni, that is Vaidhi Bhakti. And then Pandavas, out of affection, Sneha. So that's it. It can be, it may be, it may not be, depending upon whether their love is mixed with awe and reverence. So generally, their love was mixed with mode of reverence, and therefore, that forced them to be restrained by formality and etiquette. So that kind of feelings hampered their ragatmika bhakti bhav. But when that reverence subsides, then their affection can be called as ragatmika bhakti. In certain circumstances, their affection would reside and their feelings were completely spontaneous out of without any sense of duty or the greatness. The relationship was so deep. So then it was ragatmika. But at other times, it was not ragatmika. So fear, envy, respectful affection, and obedient devotion, they are excluded from Ragatmika Bhakti. So that means only the two remains, Kam Rupa and Sambandha Rupa. They are the two genuine types of Ragatmika Bhakti. Okay. And then Srila Rupa Goswami explains, what do we mean that even Shishupal, Kansa, those are not considered as bhakti. They achieve the same result as the gopis. What do we understand by that? So therefore, Srila Rupa Goswami cites the example of sunshine and the sun globe. Okay. This paragraph speak about that part. So sunshine and sun planet, they are same, but there is difference also. So sunshine is also sun, sun planet is also sun, and there is a life within sun who are residing as an individual person, that is also sun. So the demons who are killed by Krishna, or they absorb their mind completely in Krishna out of unfavorable intent also, they attain the Brahmajyoti. While the devotees like gopis, they go and associate in the pastimes of the Supreme Lord. So then Srila Rupa Goswami, after giving this evidence from Srimad Bhagavatam, explains what is some Kamarup Ragatmika Bhakti and what is Sambandha Rup Ragatmika Bhakti. So Kamrup is, the example are the gopis. And Srila Prabhupada gives an elaborate explanation differentiating between mundane kama from transcendental kama, from mundane lust to transcendental lust. So the exchange between Krishna and gopis, they may resemble, they are embracing each other, they are dancing together and so forth. So for any Baddha Jeev, for a conditioned soul, this may be very difficult to accept. What is the difficulty? The first difficulty is we tend to interpret and in the context of our own lives, right? So in our experience, conjugal affairs such as dancing or embracing are manifestation of lust. So then someone hears about Krishna's pastime with the gopis from their own context and their own interpretation, they see it as mundane lust. But it is absolutely different, just like iron and gold are different. The material lust and spiritual lust are absolutely different, just like iron is different from the gold. Selfish desire is material lust, and desire to satisfy Krishna is the spiritual lust. And secondly, second reason that Srila Rupa Goswami gives in terms of difficulty to understand Kamrup Ragatmika Bhakti is sometimes it is seen that the residents of Vrindavan act selfishly for their own happiness. In some pastimes, in some lila, it may appear they are acting for their own happiness. But factually, they know that they are acting for the Lord's transcendental pleasure. So they know that Krishna becomes pleased when devotee is pleased, and that is the only reason sometimes they seem to endeavor for their own happiness. So in some Leela, even if they are striving to attain their own happiness, they're demanding from Krishna, even that they are doing just to please Krishna. And then Srila Rupa Goswami discusses one more example. First he established that how the mundane calm is absolutely different from transcendental calm. Then next he discusses that mundane calm can be mixed with transcendental calm, just like in the example of Kubja. So Kubja's attraction to Krishna is not as pure as Gopi's attraction to Krishna. She had a selfish desire, but that was mixed with the desire to satisfy Krishna. And therefore, Srila Rupa Goswami says that it is not Kamrup Ragatmika Bhakti. It is Kama Prayaha, almost lusty desire. So, in this chapter, in order to understand what is Raganuga Bhakti, we need to understand what is Ragatmika Bhakti. Because Raganuga Bhakti is striving to get following in the footsteps of an eternally perfected living entity, specifically in Golok Vrindavan. So to understand Raganuga Bhakti, Srila Rupa Goswami then first of all describes the mood and nature of eternally perfected beings in Vrindavan. What kind of love they have for Krishna. So it is completely spontaneous. It is not checked by any sense of formal etiquette that usually arises from knowing Krishna's greatness. And their love for Krishna is so vast and so deep that it covers all the Ishwarya, and it's only about the Madhurya. And their love is completely spontaneous, without any boundaries of social etiquettes or with the boundaries of awe and reverence. Their love is not inspired by a sense of duty. It is completely spontaneous in one of the rasas. And then after describing Ragatmika Bhakti, it says there are two types of Ragatmika, Kamrup Ragatmika and Sambandha Rup Ragatmika. To illustrate that, they give example from Srimad Bhagavatam. And then explains what is Kamarupa Bhakti. And in the next chapter, we'll explain what is Sambandha Rupa, Ragatmika. Any questions so far? This was from chapter 16. Yes, Rishabh Mitra Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Guruji. Guruji, we know that desire to please Krishna is love, and desire to please one's own senses is called lust. So we know that gopis have pure love for Krishna. So while the verse says gopis have lusty desire, rather that gopis have love for prem.
Bhagavatam uses the same word and in the same verse. Kama Dveshat Bhayat Snehan. So Kama Dveshat. They wanted Krishna as their husband, as their paramour. In that kind of mood, they wanted Krishna. And that is why Srila Rupa Goswami gives an elaborate description describing the calm here that Bhagavatam speaks is very different than the calm of the material world. So calm here specifically denotes the conjugal relationship. It's a little different than what Bhagavad Gita Krishna says about the calm, which is born. It is not produced from the mode of passion, the calm of the gopis. It's absolutely transcendental. Is it clear, Prabhu?
So transcendental, calm, prema. Is it the same thing?
So when we say Kamrup here in this context, it specifically means intense desire to satisfy the Lord in conjugal love. To denote that conjugal love, the Kamrup, this word has come, and it has been taken from Srimad Bhagavatam 7th canto, where Narad Muni is describing out of Kam, out of Dvesh, out of Bhai, out of affection, out of Bhaktya, one can absorb one mind. And then he gives example out of calm, gopis gave. But that calm is denoting in the conjugal relationship and is denoting that how the calm that gopis had was completely pure because it was in relation to Krishna.
So we said is that different?
Sorry, the voice is cracking. Please ask.
When we use the word prem, when we use the word prema bhakti, different.
Yes, but prem can be in many relationships, no? Prem can be in a Sakhya also, it can be Vatsalya also.
Okay.
Yes, Vrindavan Vasi Prabhu and then Mandaleshwar Prabhu.
Thank you, Rudy. Prabhuji, as you said that Naradji's devotion is not Ragatmika, it is because of sense of duty. But we know he is very, very attached. So to understand the difference, it's Vedi, but it's on Raguna stage. Right? It's Bhakti, but it's on a because he has got also spontaneous of the Lord. But it's not Radhatmika because it is covered with awe and reference. Am I right to understand this? Like maybe Hanumanji, like Hanumanji is there.
Srila Rupa Goswami writes, the bhakti that Narad Muni was expressing and manifesting because it was out of a sense of duty. Therefore, that is counted under as Vaidhi Bhakti, not as Ragatmika Bhakti. Ragatmika, there is no sense of duty. There's no sense of obligation. There's no sense of awe and reverence that I'm worshipping Krishna because he's God. If he was not God, perhaps I would not worship him. So there is no such thought and no such consciousness. There is absolutely pure love out of spontaneity. So later on, we will just discuss tomorrow. You know, when we from Vaidhi to Bhav is different. From Raganuga to Bhav, there is a difference. So from Vaidhi to Prem, there is a difference. From Raganuga to Prem. So from that Raganuga Bhakti means I want to cultivate a specific mood of a Ragatmika Bhakti. And then my goal is Golok Vrindavan. But someone coming from Vaidhi Bhakti, and if there is no Raganuga Bhakti involved there, so their bhav is different. And then there is full manifestation of prem, that is also love of God. Full love is there. And yet their destination and mode is different. Their destination is probably Golok, Vaikuntha, one of the Vaikuntha planets. And the bhakti is out of reverence.
So Prabhuji, to understand, from Vedi also you can reach Prem, but yes, there is awe and reverence, like for case of Hanumanji and Naraji maybe. But when you say Raganuga, especially the practices that we have to do in a mood of Ragatmika Bhakti, so we attain that Ragatmika Bhakti. So therefore, Raguna cannot be used for Hanumanji or Naraji. Is it right to understand?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, Mandleshwar.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu, any senses if you are using for, it is Kama, you are intimated to Kama word. Means if you are using the senses for pleasing Krishna, senses if you are using for pleasing Krishna, then it is also Raganuga Bhakti.
No, using senses to please Krishna is present. It's a samanya bhakti. I mean, that was described in the first chapter. That's the very definition of bhakti. It happens in both Vaidhi and Raganuga. But the difference is in Raganuga, or till now we haven't discussed Raganuga, we have just discussed Ragatmika, the mood of the residents of Vrindavan. Their love towards Krishna is completely spontaneous, free from any desire of obligation, social, formal etiquette. So that is Ragatmika Bhakti. Vaidhi Bhakti, it is not based upon spontaneous attraction to Krishna. It is inspired by Guru Sadhu and Shastra, and there is a lot of obligation and sense of duty and have to in the consciousness.
Yes, Prabhu. But can we reach Ragatmika Bhakti in starting stage, or it should be by Vedi Bhakti only we could continue that?
Just wait for a few minutes. We'll come to this. Yeah. How we will reach where we'll come to that. Just understand the concept first.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Just for a few minutes, just wait. We'll come to this discussion. Any other thing? The topic that I discussed now was about what is Ragatmika Bhakti. To understand Raganuga, first of all, we need to understand what is Ragatmika. Ragatmika Bhakti is manifested in Nitya Siddha, who are living in Golok Vrindavan, eternally perfected living entities in Golok Vrindavan loving Krishna in full spontaneous love, just like Nand Maharaj, Mother Yashoda. Right? Any questions in this? What is Ragatmika Bhakti? Ragatmika Bhakti we discussed are 2 types. Basically, Ragatmika is all about relationship, Sambandha. But Rupa Goswami has kept one particular Sambandha as separate category of Kamarupa, and all the other relationship in a different category.
Prabhuji, Draupadi example will come under which category?
That is not Raganuga. She is a Prema Bhakta, but not from the Raganuga Bhakta. From Vedhi only.
Probably just to understand this one, Draupadi one, you said sometimes Pandavas may act in Ragatmika. Sorry, in
Yes.
sometimes when there is no awe in reference, then it can be Ragatmika. But sometimes when there is awe in reference, then it will not be considered. So can't Draupadi be held at the same that sometimes it may be Ragatmika, it may not be, but
Yes. So usually it is Vaidhi, and what at some places it can be when there is no sense of awe and reverence, then it can be Raganuga as well.
Raganuga, but not Ragatmika.
You can say Ragatmika, then there are different degrees of Ragatmika, but Ragatmika usually, in general, specifically refers to the eternal residence of Vrindavan.
Here.
Raganuga is a stage of sadhana. Ragatmika is a perfection. Okay. So then, after describing what is Kam Roop Ragatmika, in the next chapter, Srila Rupa Goswami describes about Sambandha Rupa Ragatmika. So Sambandha Roop specifically means all the other types of relationship. Okay. That means Dasya, Sakya, and Vatsalya. So now we need to understand that be it Kamrup or be it Sambandharup, they describe the eternal residents of Vrindavan who possess the perfection of spontaneous devotion. Now, the primary subject matter of chapter 15 and 16 is Raganuga Sadhana and not the perfection of spontaneous devotion, that is Ragatmika. Therefore, Srila Rupa Goswami briefly describes Ragatmika just like and then let us read this only. Can someone please read the first 3 paragraphs? From here to here, please read.
Persons desiring to follow in the footsteps of such eternal devotees of the Lord as the Vaishnavas and Vrindavan denizens are called Raganuga devotees, which means that they are trying to attain to the perfection of those devotees. This Raganuga devotee do not follow the regulative principle of devotional service very strictly, but by spontaneous nature they became attracted to some of the eternal devotees, such as Narad or Yasoda, and they try to follow in their footsteps spontaneously. There is a gradual development of the ambition to become like a particular devotee, and this activity is called Raganuga. Continue, Prabhuji.
Next
We,
continue, Mataji.
we must always remember, however, that such eagerness to follow in the footsteps of the denizers of Braja Vrindavan is not possible unless one is free from material contamination. In following the regulative principle of devotional service, there is a stage called Anartha Nivriti, which means the disappearance of all material combination. Sometimes someone is found imitating such devotional love, but factually, he is not freed from unearths or unwanted habit. It has been seen that so-called devotees proclaim himself a follower of Nanda Yasoda or the gopis, while at the same time his abnormal attraction for humid sex life is visible. Such a manifestation of divine love is mere imitation and has no value. When one is actually spontaneously attracted to the loving principle of the gopis, there will be found no trace of any mundane contamination in his character.
And next also.
Therefore, in the beginning, everyone should strictly follow the regulative principle of devotional service according to the injunction of the scriptures and the spiritual master. Only after the stage of liberation from material contamination can one actually aspire to follow in the footsteps of the devotees in Vrindavan.
Yeah, thank you.
Prabhuji, I have one question. You mentioned about these three rasas, but you never mentioned the Shant rasa. So we have also heard like the prominence of Shant rasa is not there in Golok. But what about the trees who wants to serve the Lord? The trees, because everything is conscious. The trees, flowers, fruits, they also want to serve the Lord. Even the cows want to serve the Lord. So maybe then, what is how we understand that we have heard like trees and all in like Shant rasa? I don't know like, how to understand this.
There is no service now, Prabhu, in Shantras.
So can we say like all the trees there are in more of Dasyaras maybe to serve the Lord and not?
I don't know. But there is no service in Shantras. There is only appreciation of His Holiness Prabodhanand Saraswati Maharaj was giving example in one of the classes. There are many people who loves to watch cricket. So if you're sitting in the stadium and watching cricket, that is like Shantras. But if you actually want to go on the field and play, that is like participating in one of the. Yeah. So you see, after describing Sambandh Rupa Ragatmika, Srila Prabhupada writes, in the stage of devotional service where regulative principles are followed, there is no necessity of discussing this love, for it must develop of itself at a more advanced stage. That's why that discussion is kept a little brief about Ragatmika Bhakti. And after that, Raganuga Bhakti is described. After describing Ragatmika, what is Ragatmika? The pure, spontaneous, devotional love that a perfected resident of Vrindavan has for Krishna. Now, person desiring to follow in the footsteps of such eternal devotees of the Lord's are called Raganuga devotees, which means they are trying to attain the perfection of those devotees. So, if someone wishes to follow a particular Ragatmika Bhakta and wishes to develop similar mood and similar kind of services to Krishna, that kind of sadhana is called as Raganuga sadhana bhakti. Now, after describing and defining Ragatmika and then Raganuga, then Rupa Goswami describes a basic qualification to practice Raganuga bhakti. What is that basic qualification? One must be on a stage of anartha nivritti. Raganuga sadhana is not possible unless one is freed from material contamination. So that is why one may begin at Vaidhi sadhana bhakti, come on the level of anartha nivritti, associate with similar Vaishnavas who awakens one's interest or one's inclination, and then one can practice Raganuga sadhana. If one artificially tries to jump over Raganuga without unnecessary purification of heart, that can backfire. Just like yesterday only I heard there was a Krishna Ras Yatra. There was a class by His Holiness Bhakti Priyat Bhagavad Sai Maharaj in ISKCON Vrindavan. So Maharaj was giving one of the examples in a different context, but the example is very apt here. That if a lady gets married, she cannot demand that I need a child immediately. Prabhupada gives that example. The child will come in due course of time. And Maharaj was explaining that if someone prematurely tries to get a child, prematurely if someone, attempts to deliver the child, the child can be damaged for his or her entire life. So the basic qualification is needed, that is on the stage of anartha nivritti. Now, Srila Prabhupada again and again warns this. It has been seen that a so-called devotee proclaims himself a follower of Nand, Yashoda, or the Gopi, while at the same time his abominable attraction for mundane sex life is visible. Such a manifestation of divine love is mere imitation and has no value. When one is actually spontaneously attracted to the loving principle of the gopis, there will be found no trace of any mundane contamination in his character. So without having a necessary stage of anartha nivritti, one tries to imitate or declare that now I am a follower of Nand, Yashoda, or Gopi, while at the same time harboring material desires in the heart. It's simply an imitation and has zero value, no value. What is required? In the beginning, we follow the regulative principle of devotional service according to Guru Sadhu śāstrī. Once we reach the stage of anartha nivritti, that stage we can aspire to follow in the footsteps of the devotees in Vrindavan. Okay, continue reading. This one paragraph also, please.
It is said by Srila Rupa Goswami, when one is actually liberated from material contamination, he can always remember an eternal devotee in Vrindavan in order to love Krishna in the same capacity. And developing such an aptitude, one will always live in Vrindavan. Even within his mind, the purport is that if it is possible, one should go and physically be present at Brajbhumi Vrindavan. And we engaged always in the service of the Lord, following the devotees in Brajdham. The spiritual realm of Braj, if it is possible, however, to be physically present as Vrindavan. One can meditate anywhere upon living in this situation wherever he may be. One must always think about life in Brajdham and about following in the footsteps of particular devotee in the service of the Lord.
Okay, thank you. So, what is the basic qualification? One is at the stage of anartha-vritti. And second, the Raganuga devotee, they will be guided only by his internal, spontaneous, intense craving to attain the service of a particular Brajbasi. Okay, and not by scriptural injunction. His primary qualification is or her eagerness to achieve the service of a particular Ragatmika Bhakta. Now, this eagerness, or which is called as lobh, is not a cheap thing. Lobh specifically means a state where our single most and overwhelming desire is to please Krishna in a very particular way, following the footsteps of a specific Ragatmika Bhakta. So therefore, this lobh usually does not arise in one's heart, at least on the before anartha-vritti stage. One another important thing, many times you will see that Raganuga devotee is above the regulative principle. What does it mean? They are above the regulative principle. It means that they are not dependent on Shastra for their inspiration to serve and surrender. Their inspiration comes from their own accord, internally, spontaneously. It does not mean that they do not follow regulative principle, that they are above regulative principle means they do not follow regulative principle. It does not mean that. It means their inspiration, they are not following that out of a sense of obligation. They're spontaneously attracted to it. Their motivation is not obligation. Their motivation is love. Their motivation is not vidhi, but their motivation is rag. Right? This is a very crucial and important point. Because again and again, you'll read that Raganuga devotees above the regulative principle. Right? Now, once we attain anartha-vritti, we may become qualified to practice Raganuga Bhakti. Anartha-nivritti is before the stage of bhav or prem. So, therefore, the Raganuga sadhana, it is still a sadhana. It is not a level of perfection. It is still a sadhana. So, what is the sadhana in this? So, all the limbs of 64 limbs that we studied are equally applicable in this Raganuga sadhana also. However, it will be more specific. For like they would Shravan, their Shravan would be more focused around that particular Ragatmika Bhakta and their service to Krishna. So the Shravanam will be there, the principles will be the same. However, it will be more specific and more focused. Another important point, it is not that Ragatmika Bhakta, because all these strange conceptions are there. All this, if someone is practicing Raganuga, Ragatmika, they won't hear about Vaidhi Bhakti. There's no conflict going on here. Lord Chaitanya would hear the pastimes of Prahlad Maharaj, Dhruv Maharaj 100 times, right? Because there is love for Krishna. Many times there's a strong misconception that people think because my goal is Krishna and Vrindavan and my goal is Raganuga and all, so I will just hear Krishna's Leela in Vrindavan and I won't hear Krishna's Leela in Mathura or in Dwarka. And they differentiate between Krishna's instruction that he gave on Kurukshetra to Arjuna, or how he dealt with his other devotees and how he dealt with Brajvasis. And they think that we are more advanced and so that is an utter misconception. It's never like that. And Srila Rupa Goswami further explains a very important principles in this regard. Let us please read. Please read these 3 paragraphs, someone. Kanchanvan Mataji, can you read? Kanchanvan Gaurangi Mataji, can you read, please?
A devotee who is actually advanced in Krishna. A devotee who is actually advanced in Krishna consciousness, who is constantly engaged in devotional service, should not manifest himself even though he has attained perfection. The idea is that he should always continue to act as a neophyte devotee as long as his material body is there. Activities in devotional service under regulative principles must be followed even by the pure devotee. But when he realizes his actual position in relationship with the Lord, he can, along with the discharging of regulative service, think himself of serving the Lord under the guidance of a particular associate of the Lord and develop his transcendental sentiments in following that associate. In this connection, we should be careful about the so-called Siddha Pranali. The Siddha Pranali process is followed by a class of men who are not very authorized and who have manufactured their own way of devotional service. They imagine that they have become associates of the Lord simply by thinking of themselves like that. This external behavior is not at all according to the regulative principles. The so-called Siddha Pranali process is followed by the Prakrita Sahajiya, a pseudo-sect of so-called Vaishnavas. In the opinion of Rupa Goswami, such activities are simply disturbances to the standard way of devotional service. Sri Rupa Goswami says that learned acharyas recommend that we follow the regulative principles even after the development of spontaneous love for Krishna. According to the regulative principles, there are 9 departmental activities as described above, and one should specifically engage himself in the type of devotional service for which he has a natural aptitude. For example, one person may have a particular interest in hearing, another may have a particular interest in chanting, and another may have a particular interest in serving in the temple. So these or any of the other 6 different types of devotional service, remembering, serving, praying, engaging in some particular service, being in a friendly relationship, or offering everything in one's possession, should be executed in full earnestness. In this way, everyone should act according to his particular taste.
Okay, just one more. Let me take out the voice. Yes, please read this, just the translation.
One who executes this Raga Nuga Bhakti in two ways, external and internal. When self-realized, the advanced devotee externally remains like a neophyte and executes all the Shastric injunctions, especially those concerning hearing and chanting. But within his mind, in his original purified, self-realized position, he serves Krishna in Vrindavan in his particular way. He serves Krishna 24 hours a day, all day and night.
And the next one, yeah.
The advanced devotee who is inclined to spontaneous loving service should follow the activities of a particular associate of Krishna's in Vrindavan. He should execute service externally as a regulative devotee as well as internally from his self-realized position. Thus, he should perform devotional service both externally and internally.
Okay. So, the first verse instructed the Raganuga Bhakta to always think about an Ragatmika Bhakta or eternal devotee in Vrindavan, right? Now, we should note that, and this is the catch, and it's a very important. If you understand this one thing, in a lot of confusions can be clear. The Swarup of a devotee in Golok Vrindavan is in two forms. One is as a resident of Vrindavan in Krishna Leela, and one as in pastimes of Mahaprabhu in Gaur Leela. So in Gaur Leela, they appear as sadhakas. That is their Swarup. And in Krishna Leela, they have a Swarup of Siddha. Okay. For example, Srila Rupa Goswami. He simultaneously manifests in Gaur Leela and Krishna Leela. In Gaur Leela as Srila Rupa Goswami and in Krishna Leela as Shri Rupa Manjari. Okay, so now since Ragatmika Bhakta has two Swarup, one in Gaur Leela and one in Krishna Leela, so there are two ways to meditate upon them. Now, one way is externally and the second way is internally. Externally, there was a word that came sadhak rupena. It means to be absorbed in the thought of an eternal resident of Vrindavan by externally following their activities in sadhaka form. So externally we meditate and we follow in the footsteps of their sadhaka form, that is Srila Rupa Goswami. I'm just giving an example, it can be any devotee. And then Siddha Rupena, that's the second word. That is the second kind of meditation, that's the internal meditation. So by internally following the behavior of their Siddha form. So that means internally one would meditate on the form of Srila Rupa Manjari and her service to Krishna and so on. Just like, Srila Raghunath Das Goswami describes in one of her books, Braj Vilas Tava, that meditation. So, what happens in a Siddha Pranali, where Srila Prabhupada is telling us to be very careful. about so-called Siddha Pranali. Now, this entire process is based upon that, the current shloka of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, and it is said it is deviant in two ways. Now, the Siddha Pranali originally, when it was established by, I think, Gopal Guru and his disciple Dhyan Chandra Goswami, that was an actual process. We are not going into detail what is the process right now, but usually the process that is being practiced nowadays is deviant in two ways. It was a bona fide process at the time when it was introduced, many 100 years back. But in current form, it is deviant in two ways. One, they think the deviant specifically think that they have become associates of the Lord simply by thinking of themselves like that. So Prabhupada is writing here. That means externally they follow the Siddha Rupa of something that has to be followed. They would externally follow the activities of Sri Rupa Manjari. Externally, Sri Rupa Goswami form has to be followed. And secondly, they don't believe in their Sarup of Gaura Leela. So they would believe in Sri Rupa Manjari, but they will not believe in the form of Rupa Goswami. Let me repeat. Every Ragatmika Bhakta has two kinds of Sarup, one in Krishna Leela and one in Gaura Leela. By definition, Raganuga Bhakta is supposed to meditate upon Ragatmika Bhakti and follow in their footsteps. That meditation is done in two ways, internally and externally. Externally, one has to follow in the sadhana rupena, that means in the form sarup that they manifest in the Gaura Leela, in the form of a sadhaka, that is Srila Rupa Goswami. Internally, the meditation has to be on the Siddh Rupena, that is Sri Rupa Manjari. Now there is a particular class of persons who are deviant and who can mislead many people simply by speaking big things. But if you understand the philosophy and Siddhanta rightly, there are two deviations you can easily detect. One, they don't believe in the Siddh Roop, in the Sadha Roop. They say that we don't believe in their Swarup as sadhakas. So that means they would believe in Rupa Manjari, they won't believe in Rupa Goswami. And secondly, they would follow externally the activities that were meant to be followed internally. So when you go to Vrindavan, you will see many times, many gents, they will be dressed like gopis and they'll be doing this and that. They'll have a particular sadhana of their own. But that is a total deviation. And because of that deviation, practically so much nuisance has been created in the society. So just like there were two types of Ragatmika Bhaktis, there are two types of Raganuga Bhaktis also. Kamanuga and Sambandhanuga. So Kamanuga means that conjugal love. That conjugal love is of further two types, Sambhog, and the second type is Tat Bhav Ichhatmika. That means striving not to meet with Krishna directly, but to assist the Supreme Heroine Srimati Radharani and thus directly experience her loving mood through service and appreciation. And Sambhog Ichha means striving to serve Krishna as do those who directly meet him in conjugal love. So there are two kinds of Kamanuga. One, you want to serve Krishna directly, and the second, we don't want to serve Krishna directly, but to assist Srimati Radharani, and through her mood and service, we want to approach the service of Krishna. These are two types. So then this topic is discussed. What is the eligibility of Kamanuga? The eligibility is the same. The only thing is the one has to have, one needs to be attracted towards this particular relationship. So when one's perhaps worship the deities of Radha, Krishna, hear Krishna's pastimes with the gopis, one may become attracted in this way. And then eligibility in males. Can a male aspire for this kind of relationship with Krishna? Because loving Krishna in conjugal mood entails feminine sentiments on behalf of devotee. So one may think that only females can properly aspire for it. But Srila Rupa Goswami clearly destroys this misconception and establishes that these relationships with Krishna are absolutely on transcendental platform. They have got nothing to do with materialistic designation. And the example is given of sages of Dandakaranya. They were all men, but when they saw Lord Ram, they wanted conjugal love. And that's why they took their next birth as gopis and associated with Krishna. And then there is a separate category of Kamanuga. One is Parakiya and Swakiya bhav. Parakiya means unwedded and Swakiya means wedded. And then Sambandhanuga, just like parenthood or friendship is there. Okay. So any questions from what we discussed about Raganuga Bhakti? We can just quickly go through, and let me just show the slides. It will be a good recap. We'll just quickly go through what we discussed today. Okay, we started with chapter 15, that is Raganuga Bhakti, that is spontaneous devotional service. So we discussed first of all what it is, attachment of the residents of Vrindavan for Krishna, right? We discussed about this, we are discussing about Ragatmika Bhakti first. To understand Raganuga, we first of all need to understand what is Ragatmika. Ragatmika is attachment of the attachment that residents of Vrindavan have for Krishna. It embodies the perfection of spontaneous love for Krishna, right? How it is different from Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti. So difference between Raganuga Sadhana and Ragatmika is the perfected state that is in the eternal, perfectly situated devotees. Raganuga is a sadhana, is a practice of someone who aspires to develop the devotional mood of Ragatmika Bhakta. And the main criteria of Ragatmika is spontaneous devotional obsession with pleasing Krishna. Okay, that's all. And then we discussed the evidence from Srimad Bhagavatam. We discussed the different types of Ragatmika Bhakti, Kama Rupa, Sambandha Rupa, why it is compared with lust, how is it is different from our lust. You know, the proof that Gopi's love is not lust, that there are great devotees like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Uddhav, who certified Gopi's love as the highest. Aradhyo Bhagavan Vajesh Tanayas Tadham Vrindavanam. Ramya Kachit Upasana Vrajvadhu Vargena Ya Kalpita. Lord Chaitanya is saying, Vrajvadhu Vargena Ya Kalpita. They are the highest kind of devotees. And then, then Sambandhanuga, we give the example of Vrishnis and Yashoda. Then, after describing about Ragatmika, we discussed about Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti. It's an advanced practice intended to cultivate the service mode of an eternally perfect residence of Vrindavan. The prerequisite is, first, one has to have strong desire to serve Krishna in a specific relationship. How this desire comes? By hearing from our eternal residents of Vrindavan spontaneously to serve Krishna in various loving modes. When does this eligibility manifest? When the lobha arises. When lobha comes, usually at the stage of not until anarth nivritti. How anarth nivritti will happen? By following Vaidhi sadhana bhakti. So yeah, then we discussed about practices of Raganuga sadhana bhakti, their internal and external meditation, how we should be beware of philosophical deviation. They do not reject 64 items, but focuses on practice most conducive to his service. Okay. And sometimes this is also called as Pushti Marg, Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti. Is it clear? So, that was about Raganuga. Okay. And if you will carefully see the program that Srila Prabhupada has given us, Prabhupada has given us Krishna book. He's given us 10th canto, the complete Srimad Bhagavatam, the Tulsi Aarti. It is such a perfect combination. Anyone sincerely doing can achieve the highest perfection. Sometimes people ask, do we follow Vaidhi or Raganuga? What do we mean by we? Every practitioner is different. The aspiration of every practitioner is different. Sometimes people say, ISKCON में Raganuga होती है या Vaidhi होती है. So the question itself is so wrong. What do you mean by ISKCON में क्या होता है? It is about the individual devotee and Krishna. Let us say if someone does not want to go to Vrindavan, तो उसको जबरदस्ती रागानुगा करा के वृंदावन थोड़ी भेजेंगे. It doesn't mean we'll forcefully will be sent to Rag. The principles are universal. Prabhupada gave us a complete package based upon the individual jiva's relationship and aspiration. One can attain either. The prema is in the both through Vaidhi also, through Raganuga also. But if you there is abundance opportunity, and in fact I can say the best sadhana is given in ISKCON even to attain Raganuga sadhana bhakti. If you carefully analyze the prayers that we are singing every single day in Tulsi Aarti. So if you are performing Tulsi Aarti every day, singing Tulsi Aarti, meditating on the meaning, what is that? If you see the Krishna book chapters, if you're reading Krishna book every day, and we all have experienced, sometimes there is spontaneous attraction to Krishna, even while performing sadhana. It's not that always we have to be pushed and so on. Sometimes you may have experienced, we have some spontaneous attraction for Krishna. So the more we follow the process individually and strictly, we'll make advancement, and then later stages will be accessible to us. Okay, thank you very much. So we'll stop here. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu ki jai, Srila Rupa Goswami Prabhupada ki jai. Okay. So if there are any questions, please you can ask. Yes, Rukmani Mataji, then Vrindavan Vasipro.
Small question. And if this stage is not done, still have attraction. Rasa is very far, still have attraction for any of the particular. Is it okay? Rasa is very far, another it is not done. So still have attraction. Is it okay?
Yeah, why not? We may have certain attraction to certain devotees. That's perfectly okay. One should not immediately come to conclusion that okay, now I'm this bhakta only, and I'm situated in this only. And so one should be careful about, first of all, philosophical deviation. Being attracted to one thing does not mean I'm not attracted to anything else. So that should not be there. Okay, I am now attracted to Sakya, so I'll just hear only those pastimes, and other pastimes are not relevant to me. That should not happen.
Just want to check. I like all the pastimes, but one particular pastimes for so long, many years attracts me. So is it okay?
Yeah, definitely. That's the most glorious thing. Attracted to pastimes of Krishna, and hear those again and again. The only thing is we should not discriminate that Krishna's killing demons is different or is anyway subservient to Krishna's performing Ras Leela. Or when Krishna went to Dwarka is, and Krishna's pastime in Vrindavan. Philosophically, that much caution we should be there. Yes, Vrindavan Vasudha.
I really wanted to understand this definition of Raguna Sadhana once again. What I've understood, Ragatmika Bhakti means pure devotional, spontaneous, loving devotional services exhibited by eternal perfected like Brajvasis. Now, when we follow a process to attain that kind of a bhakti of a particular Ragatmika Bhakt, that is Raganuga. Am I right to understand this?
Repeat the last line. When we follow a process.
When we follow a process to attain devotional service in that kind of a Brajvasi mood, especially in a particular devotee, of a particular Ragatmika devotee.
Yes.
And that sadhana will be the same as our 64 limbs. Only thing is when one is revealed that we are attracted to a particular devotee, maybe we'll our focus will be more on that, but we will still hear other things, or we will do other things also.
Yes, the externally it will appear as same.
Right.
Yet the motivation will be different. Motivation will not be out of sense of obligation. It will be out of spontaneous attraction.
Okay.
Externally will follow in the footstep of that Ragatmika Bhakta Swarup in Gaur Leela as a sadhaka.
Right.
And internally, one's motivation, aspirations, and the place from where they are performing sadhana will be different. In Vaidhi, it is out of sense of duty and obligation.
Yes,
and in Raganuga, it is on a spontaneous attraction.
Okay, Prabhuji. So supposing, Prabhuji, we are attracted to, for example, Rupa Goswami, as you said. So externally, I will follow the footsteps given by Rupa Goswami. Internally, internally, like Rupa Manjari is serving Srimati Radharani. So internally, I will be doing like that. Is it, to understand like this?
Yes. So internally, the meditation would be on, Shri Rupa Manjari, the kind of services that she renders. So you would meditate upon that. Externally, the sadhana that Srila Rupa Goswami has given, and he has shown by his own example, you'll follow that.
So, Prabhuji, supposing somebody is attracted to a Ragatmika Bhakta, but we are followers of Rupa Goswami. So, how can we know externally what he is doing? What will be our external sadhana in that case? Supposing I'm trying to understand. Like there is a particular maybe Manjari or so.
That is why all the discussions are there in the Shastra. No? If you read the other chapters of Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu, if you read the Southern Division and Western Division,
okay,
so the devotees in a particular rasas, Ragatmika Bhakta of various rasas are given their descriptions are given. So we'll follow that.
Externally, we will be coming to know the sadhana also, and internally also what they do.
No, no, we will have to study in the Shastra. We'll have to find out.
Okay, about the sadhana internally as well as externally in that time.
Yes, definitely.
Okay. But Prabhuji, coming to our...
How would that even desire come if you don't know about them?
But Prabhuji, I think we should, as you have this, we should know as a concept, so we are not getting deviated. But presently, our focus should be on the Vedi sadhana which is given to us, so that gradually we'll come to this level.
Yes, at the same time, the aspiration should be prema. Sambandh Gyan is also important. Abhideya Gyan is also important. And Prayojan is also important. So we should, through studying all this, we should understand, we should have a clear understanding of our Prayojan. Through study of 64 limbs, we should have a clearer understanding of our Abhideya. And as Sambandh also. So if we are clear on that, our practice will be from a place of clarity and confidence and with a lot of strong faith, rather than from a place of doubt and half-hearted and so on.
And Roji, we can say like this: any person who's not wanting to, or who's not internally, is not, a Raganuga Bhakt or a Raganuga Bhakt he will be called only when he is following in the steps of the Ragat, in the Brajvasi Bhaktas. So we can say like this. So then only we can call him a Raguna or a Ragatmika. If it is somewhere else, then it will not be Raganuga or Ragatmika.
Now, the technical definition is one who follows in the who aspires to serve Krishna in mode of a particular Ragatmika Bhakta. So Ragatmika Bhakta mostly and generally are the residents of Vrindavan, and yet just like Vrishnis, Vanshis are there. Sometimes they manifest, sometimes so they can be outside also. Yet the generally it refers to. Because outside there usually the love is mostly around awe and reverence. That mode takes predominance than the spontaneous devotion. Just like, I'm saying outside the realm of Vrindavan, usually the relationship has elements of awe and reverence than the completely spontaneous relationship. Just like if you compare the love of Mother Yashoda with the love, and not love, of course love is unlimited, can't become. The relationship that Mother Yashoda had with Krishna and the relationship of Mother Devaki with Krishna. Mother Yashoda's love was completely spontaneous, without any sense of awe and reverence. Even if when Krishna manifested his, Aishwarya, that was a disturbance in the mood of Mother Yashoda. When Mother Yashoda saw the entire universal manifestation in the mouth of Krishna. So for a moment, she became wonderstruck what is happening. But then again, Madhurya took over. But if you compare it with the mood of a relationship of Mother Devaki, when Krishna was born, she offered such wonderful prayers, but they were all in awe and reverence. Even when Krishna brought back the dead sons, she prayed. Or when Krishna Balaram released them from the prison, the kind of interactions they had.
So really presently, like we are knowing that Krishna is called Bhagavan, 6 opulences. He's so powerful. And so presently we are doing in the mood of awe and reference. Maybe if somebody tells Krishna is not that supreme desire, maybe we will not be worshipping him. So presently it's in this mood. So gradually when we will do this devotional services, limbs, then gradually this will come up. Because right now,
Aishwarya Gyan is without Aishwarya Gyan, not possible to have the sweetness of Krishna. Only when the Aishwarya, it's possible only when the relationship becomes mature and so intimate enough that that you're not even bothered about the Aishwarya. You just love the person so much. For example, a child, maybe a chief minister or prime minister, but for mother, it is her child. She does not love the child because he is a prime minister. He loves because he's a son. That relationship of son is much more intimate than. But if a new person, if he artificially jumps and ignores Aishwarya Gyan, yeah, that person will not be able to fix one's mind on Krishna only. Without Aishwarya Gyan, our distracting mind will not be focused on Krishna. For a bhakta, Aishwarya is not less important. It is not. They celebrate it with a different intimacy. Oh, our Krishna lifted Govardhan. Oh, our Krishna. You're understanding? Aishwarya Gyan is very important, but for one, both of them celebrate. It has a place in both kind of devotees' life, and yet the level of intimacy is much more in Ragatmika. If you love someone, if a mother loves a son, if she comes to know that, oh, he does this and this also, that may be a celebration.
Understood. Thank you.
Okay. I guess Kanchan and Mataji, and then we'll close. Yeah.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, I had this question that the Raganuga Bhakta who's trying to follow externally and internally, like Vrindavan and Gaur Leela, where does the Raganuga Bhakta go then? In Gaur Leela or Krishna Leela? I don't know.
Simultaneously, both places.
So sadhaka also goes to both the places.
So one has sarup in both places. One has two kinds of sarup. That's what I've heard from, and that's what my understanding of what I heard. I usually have heard a couple of different answers on this, but mostly it has been what I have understood is just like Ragatmika Bhakta has two kinds of sarup. Similarly, when the jiva becomes perfect, they have also two kinds of sarup.
Okay. It is not that if a jiva has more inclination towards Krishna Leela or Gaur Leela, it is not either. It is like both.
Yes.
But Goloka Vrindavan has two divisions, like Navadvip and Vrindavan.
How exactly they are situated physically in space, I don't know. But yes, there are two, Gaur Mandal and Braj Mandal, and there's no difference between them.
Yes, I saw in the first canto painting, it is shown Radha Krishna, and in the lotus also it is. I heard this in the lecture, and also it is shown like very small. I noticed later on that Gaur Leela is also shown and Krishna Leela is also shown in this lotus flower.
Yeah. It's a very beautiful painting. Yeah.
Yes.
So there are two of the Gaur Mandal is also there, Braj Mandal is also there, and there's no difference. And that's what Narottam Das Thakur is writing in one of his bhajans. So Navdeep Mandal, if you go to Navdeep Mandal Parikrama, all the entire Braj Mandal is present there. They show where is the Govardhan, Kola Deep, and like the 12 forests of Vrindavan are present in Navdeep Mandal. And it is said that all the holy places, they are present in their original swarup in Navdvipanda Parikrama. So the Pushkar, one Pushkar is there in Gujarat. So that's not the original Pushkar. Original Pushkar resides in Navdev. And the extension of that is in, it's like that. So Radha Kund, Sham Kund also are there in Navdvipanda.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada's ki jai.